Hello guys, how are you? I am Innocent. Welcome to our lectures for operations management in supply chain. So this is an introductory lecture for us to get to understand what operations management in supply chain is all about. Right. So from our module, we have 9 topics that we are, or units that we are going to cover. Okay, so this is our study guide. I know everyone has got this study guide, right? So these are the 9 topics that we are going to cover. The first one being the nature and scope of operations management function, right? The second one, effective managerial decisions. Number 3, development of effective operations. Number 4, basic calculations to determine productivity. 5, the global environment and operations strategy. 6, process strategies. 7, focusing techniques. 8, inventory management and economic order quantity. And then the last one being aggregate planning and scheduling. So these are the topics that we are going to cover. We're going to do revision after we are done with all the 9 topics. So the 9 topics, I'll be highlighting the areas that you need to master, where examiners usually pick questions from. So after that, and then we do our revision, we look at past exam papers, we revise, we prepare you for
them of the land and livelihood, sought to strip them of their dignity, humiliated them.
okay, right. So that is how we are going to go through our studies this semester, right? So the first unit, like I said, is the nature and scope of operations management. So let's start with our first introductory unit or topic. Okay. Okay, guys, am I audible?
Yes.
Side?
You're badly
Am I
breaking.
audible? Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. If you have, I'm breaking.
Yes.
Am I breaking to everyone?
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Now we can hear you, but you keep
Okay,
breaking.
okay, okay. Okay. Let me see what others are saying. Okay. You'll be telling me if you're not getting me. All right. So this is our first topic: the nature and scope of operations management. All right. So we know that a business, for a business to function well, there are some operations that have to be managed, right? So those operations are managed by the operations managers. If these operations managers manage these operations well, we are going to see these operations being efficient, meaning they are going to enable the business to reduce operational costs, right? So these operations managers, they are very important in an organization. Because when we're talking of costs, if costs are not managed, then they reduce the profitability of an organization. So they have a very big role that they play in an organization. That's the operations managers. The decisions that they make, they affect the organization on a large extent. Okay? So we have the scope of operations management that explains what these operations management that you're talking about in supply chain, for example, is all about. We find this information under the scope of operations management. So in an organization does not have one function, or an organization does not have one department. Functions and departments, they are the same thing, right? So we have various functions. We have various departments in an organization. So you as an operations manager, you must know the relationships between these organizations. We'll look at these functions or departments later on in this unit. And also, as an operations manager, you need to be able to differentiate between goods or products and services. Remember, we have two types of organizations. One that provides goods, provides services. So an organization is either it's providing goods or services, or it's providing both goods and services. Okay, so we also look at the differences between the goods and services that are provided or delivered by various organizations. Okay, so we also need to define operations management. We need to understand it because we say this is an introductory, right? So we are talking of the management of those processes within an organization or within the operations department that are used to design, to create, deliver, and distribute goods and services. To whom? To the customers, to the clients. And these goods and services, we are saying that they are value adding. They're going to add value to the customers. So those activities that we have, a lot of activities that are used to change the inputs into outputs. We'll cover this also later on in detail. We have inputs that are fed into a process, right? To come up with the goods, to come up with the what? The services which are outputs. So there are various activities that are, when a service is being delivered, there are various activities that are in operations management. For example, when you want to make a table, there are inputs that have to be put into the what? Into the process. And then you come up with a table. We have a wood, we have steel, we have a lot of things. We have vanishing cream, and various activities are involved. Transporting the wood to the manufacturing site, transporting the steel, keeping these also in the warehouses. All those activities, they need to be managed. That's what operations management is all about. Now, here we talked about value addition. What is it that we are saying is value addition in operations management? The additional value of goods over the cost to produce it. We know when goods are being produced, there is a cost of producing those goods. Goods are not produced free of charge. There is a cost that is involved. Now, the value that is added on that cost, that's value added. When goods are being manufactured, there is any manufacturing process, there is value that is added, so that when it is being sold to a customer, they are going to buy it using a price that is more than the cost of producing it. For example, if the cost of producing a laptop that you're using now, or a cell phone that you're using now, is, let's say, a cell phone, the cost of producing it is 3,000 rand during manufacturing. That is what the business is going to charge,
Breaking.
it makes profit. Because if it charges the 3,000, then it's not going to make profit. So it makes profit on charging on the value that has been added. I am breaking. Is it to everyone?
Yes, you are breaking.
Yes,
Guys, am I breaking to everyone?
Yes, you are.
very good.
Hello, guys. Talk to me.
Yes, you are breaking up.
Oh. Okay, let me see what's happening. Okay, just send me messages. Don't. Okay, let me see what's going on here. As I'm talking right now, can you hear me clearly? Guys, Okay, sorry guys, I've tried to log out and log in again to see if the problem persists, right? So let me go to the next slide, and then if you hear that I'm still breaking, and then you tell me. Okay. Right. So in operations management has been growing from the past, right? So from the 1990s, we have seen operations management growing. We had managers who were working in the manufacturing department of organizations. So in the past, they used only maintenance of the machinery that is used in the production of goods and services, right? In the 1950s, there was manufacturing that was taking place. It started to grow at manufacturing, right? So businesses had to meet the increase in demand that was coming from the consumers. We saw so we were seeing the growth in production in demand in the 1950s led to businesses building more factories to provide more goods and services to the consumers. So because of the increase in demand, the increase in factories, we saw productivity also improving. The productivity in various organizations or manufacturing companies, it improved, it increased, right? So when there is an increase in productivity, or there is an increase in goods that have to be produced, we know that a lot of people are required to do the work. They are required the products, right? So as the manufacturing sector was booming, was expanding, we saw a need for services in the manufacturing sector. There was a need for services, and then the service sector started to grow to provide services to the manufacturing sector. Okay. Now we have operations. As we were having operations in the manufacturing sector, we started to have operations management also in the service industry, which was growing to complement the manufacturing sector. So what is the principles, the concepts that are used in the manufacturing sector? Some of them apply also in the service sector or in the service industry. Okay? When we're talking of the service industry, we're talking of businesses, companies that are providing services to their customers. They're not providing a tangible product. For example, we're talking of an educational institution is in the service sector, a fast food restaurant, a hospital. These are in the service sector. So they can use the principles or concepts that are used in the manufacturing industry. We have activities or tasks such as scheduling, inventory management. These are used in the manufacturing sector. They also apply the service sector. They are also used there. Because there's some form of, for example, inventory, that is technicians. These ones, they provide services to businesses in the manufacturing sector and people in general. A business needs electricians to look at what electricity is doing, maybe if there are faults and so on, or to install something new. We have technicians. They provide services to the manufacturing sector. Am I audible, guys? Am I not breaking?
You are not breaking so far.
Am I not? Okay, all right, thank you. So we have seen now employment in the service sector increasing because there was increase in demand for services in the manufacturing sector. So employment in the service sector increased. We had the service sector employing more people than the manufacturing sector. So we are saying the manufacturing sector and the service sector, they should complement each other. They depend on each other. Without the manufacturing sector, the service sector cannot thrive. Without the service sector, the manufacturing sector will not do well. For example, in the manufacturing sector, there's need for services, repair services. For example, there's need for electricians in the what move goods or raw materials, whatever, from point A to point B. And if you go to the service sector, whatever they do, they use goods that are produced in the manufacturing sector. You're in the transport industry, you need trucks. A truck is manufactured in the manufacturing sector. You are running an educational institution. There are a lot of things that you use that are manufactured. Tables, for example, the computers. So they need each other. Without the manufacturing sector, the service sector cannot do well, and the same applies to the service sector. Okay. Now, we are talking of the operations managers, those who oversee activities that take place in the operations department. They make various managers make various decisions, right? So we have operations managers at various levels of the organization. Okay, so the first here are strategic decisions. These strategic decisions, we are talking of decisions that are broad, that concern the operational strategies of the organization. And they are made by senior managers. They are long-term, right? Meaning they cover from 2 up to maybe 20 years. That's their range. So they have to be made by senior management. Why is it that it's senior managers who have to make these decisions? Why? Because it is the senior managers who are accountable to the various stakeholders of the organization. The senior managers are responsible for the performance of the company. And they have to answer to, for example, when we're talking of stakeholders, they have to answer to the shareholders, to the, such as the government. So they have to make their strategic decisions because they have the authority and accountability to justify what is going to come out from that, justify the outcomes. Okay, so examples of strategic decisions, those that are made by senior managers. We're talking of deciding where to locate facilities. We have ShopRite, for example, in South Africa. It builds new shops. So it is the senior managers who decide, okay, we want a ShopRite, we want to locate our shop at this location. It is the senior managers. Even if the business is expanding internationally, they decide in which country to go, and in those countries where to locate their facilities. Right? And then number two, deciding whether or not to launch a new product. If a manufacturing business wants to launch a new product, this is done or is decided by the senior managers. And deciding on a process that is going to be used to produce a product, or a process that is going to be used to deliver a new service, if it's a service organization. Also, the layout of the plant, the layout of the factory that is going to be used to produce the goods or to deliver the service, if it's a service organization. Okay, so these are some of the decisions in nature, and they are broad districts. Okay, from strategic decisions, we also have the tactical decisions. We are talking of the medium-term decisions. These ones are less complex when you compare them to the strategic decisions which are made by senior managers. And they are made by middle-level managers. Okay? The time period for these tactical decisions, it ranges. If you go to another book, you will see them giving you different ranges even for all these decisions. But here, you have to use what is in our guide. So for the tactical decisions, they can range from a couple of weeks to 2 years. Remember, with this one, from where the strategic starts, that is where it ends. This one, that is where they end, 2 years. So from a couple of weeks to 2 years. Okay? They follow the strategic decisions that are made by senior managers. And senior managers, they set objectives. And these objectives are going to be achieved by these tactical managers who are at the middle level. Examples, we're talking of these decisions that are made by tactical managers or middle level managers, identifying the customer. The senior managers, they have identified the product. They've decided on the product to launch. A product has been launched. Now it is the middle level managers who must identify the customer for that product. And also identifying the target demands. Who is the target demographic for this product that has been launched? So these decisions are made by middle-level managers. Okay. From the tactical decisions, we have the lower level, which is the operational planning and control decisions. Now, these ones you're talking of, there are two you can see here. We have the operational planning, and then we have control. They are all at what? At the lower level. So when you're looking at the operational decisions, talking of the day-to-day decisions that are made by low-level managers or the junior managers in the organization. They are very simple. They are repetitive. They can make them on a daily basis. You can compare to what the senior managers do locating a place to for facilities cannot be done on a daily basis. It's once in a while. But these ones now, they are done on a daily basis. And they've got a short time frame. That is from hours to a couple of weeks. Okay, so examples of operational decisions within an organization, we are talking of deciding how much inventory to carry. Right? This is done by the low-level managers, the junior managers, how much inventory to carry, the quantities of the raw materials to buy from the suppliers. This is done by the lower-level managers, the junior managers. And we have the upper part of these low-level decisions, which is the control decisions. Right? These ones now, they are concerned with the problem areas where standards have to be set. Activities and output has to be monitored. And if there are problems that have been identified, corrective actions have to be taken. Right? So the examples of control decisions that are made by the junior managers deciding on the quality of the products. These ones are the ones who are working with people, employees who are producing goods, for example. So if they see that the goods are not of the required quality, they have to take corrective action to make sure that the products that are being produced are of the required quality. Right? Also, deciding on the finances of the business. They control the finances of the business. The day-to-day operational expenses are controlled by the low-level managers. So if operational expenses are controlled, we're talking of the finances. The cost effectiveness of the resources that are used to produce goods is also controlled by these low-level managers or the junior managers. That is the finance part. From these three levels of decisions that are made in an organization, we move forward to why we start operations management. Why do we start operations management? The first reason why we start operations management is to determine how people organize themselves for a productive enterprise. We have people who operate in various functions or departments in an organization. We need to determine how they organize themselves to come up with something that is productive for the company that they are working for. An organization, we said, it has got various functions or departments, but the three major and sales department, right, which deals with the selling of the products. And then we have the finance department, which deals with various accounts that the organization has. And we have the production department, the one which deals with the operations of producing a product or a service, right? So the last one, which is the produce or production department, that is where we have the operations. So operations management is amongst the major functions or departments in an organization. So it has to be started. It has got a great effect on an organization. Okay, guys, are we together? Are you following? Do you get me? Any problems?
Yes, we're still following.
Okay, thank you. So the second reason why we start operations management is to know how goods and services are produced. Where you are right now in your house, there are various goods that are there, various products that are there. In front of you, there's a laptop. there is a cell phone, there is a pen. All these things, they are produced. So we need to know how they are produced. We need to know how they are transformed. We know goods, and so if they go through transformation process, which we'll look at later on. So we need to know how it happens. Okay. Number 3, to understand what operations managers do. Maybe in the future, you're going to be an operations manager. What the operations managers do. We have the function, the general functions of managers, which you covered, or maybe which you cover in organizational leadership or other modules. These are planning, organizing, staffing, leading, and controlling. These also apply to operations managers. They carry out these functions to ensure that the operational activities are effective, are efficient. And another reason why we start operations management, it is such a costly part of an organization. If something is costly, it costs a lot. The organization, it has to be studied. Why? So that maybe the organization or these managers to reduce the costs, right? If costs are reduced, then the profits, they go up. So you have to start the operations management. You start something, you understand it very well, you come up with ideas on how to reduce the costs. Okay. And then the last one, why we start operations management, to ensure the competitiveness of the organization. There is intense competition nowadays across the globe. So starting operations management will enable that the organization is competing with other organizations around the globe. Is not being left behind. The operations management department will make the organization competitive. If an organization, for example, reduces costs under this reason here, right? If costs are reduced, it means it's going to provide products that are much cheaper than its competitors. And it is gaining competitiveness. Okay. Right. You might have more reasons, but for now, these are just the major 5 why we start operations management. Okay. And then we have the scope of operations management. We have the scope of operations management. Right. So the scope of operations management includes various items. The first one, it includes making decisions that affect the production of goods and services. Right? That's the first scope of operations, making decisions that are going to have an effect on how goods are going to be produced, on how the services are going to be delivered. Okay, so the decisions that are going to be made here depends on the risk. They depend on the risks that are going to be involved in producing if the good or delivering the service. If there are high risks, then tough decisions have to be made. Okay. And then the second item here, ensuring the relationship between different functions in the organization. Remember, we said we have various functions within the organization, the major ones being operations department, the finance department, and marketing. The operations department can also be called the production department. So we need to know how these departments and others that we did not mention, such as the IT department, the human resource department, we need to know the relationships that are between these various functions. It produces the goods, delivers the services. Okay. And then the third item here, which is under the scope of operations management, is ensuring the entire organization works as a system. Right? So we said we have various functions in the organization. They have to work together as a unified system to enable the organization to achieve its overall objective. And the major objective of an organization is to generate profit, is to make a profit from its activities. Okay. So all these departments, operations department, finance department, marketing department, HR department, IT department, and so on, they have to work together to enable the organization to make the profits. If these departments do not work together, the organization will fail. They have to support each other. For example, if the finance department is not giving enough finance to the what do we call this, supply chain departments, or to the operations department to purchase raw materials, then they're not going to provide the products that customers require in the right quantities, which will affect the sales revenue of the business. Okay, so this is our scope for our operations management. Right. And then we talked about the various organizations in the departments or functions in an organization. Let's just briefly look at the relationships between these functions or departments within an organization. You can call it a function or a department. The major three being finance, marketing, and operations, right? So the finance department or the accounting department, it provides the money to buy the raw materials. It provides the money or the funds to buy the new machines, to pay the salaries of the employees who are working, right? And even if there is maintenance to be done on the machinery, there is research and development that has to be done, the money is going to come from the finance department. New investments to be done by the business, the money is going to come from the finance. So it's a very important department in an organization. The marketing department, it communicates what the organization has produced. This is communicated with the customers who are going to buy the product, who are going to use the service. That's the marketing department. If the production department, which is the operations department, if it produces and there is no communication between the organization and the customer, which is done by the marketing, then the products are not going to be bought. The services are not going to be bought by the clients or customers. So the marketing department is also very important in an organization. We have the operations department, the one that is going to fulfill the requests from the customers, right? And they ensure that goods are produced to meet the requests from the customers. They ensure that the services have been delivered to satisfy the customer, right? So these are the three major departments and their relationships. Let's look at how they fit into the organization, or how the operations management fit there in relationship to other departments, right? So we have our company here, ABC Private Limited. We have the finance department, which deals with the accounts payables, which is going to include also the creditors, for example, it's an accounts payable, right? And then we have accounts receivables, which include the debtors. We have investments, we have loans. All these, they fall under the finance department. We have the operations department, deals with the production of goods and services, the logistics, movement of raw materials, movement of finished goods, and so on. The procurement of the raw materials, designing of the products. This is the operations department. And we have the marketing department, sales promotion, market research, the advertising that you see on television, that you hear on radio, you see posters wherever you go. It's the marketing department, and ensuring that customers are satisfied with what they are getting. That's the marketing department. And we have other supporting functions or departments, like I said, the human resources department, the technical department, information systems. Technical information systems, they can come under the IT department. They help these major three departments. Okay. Now, let's look at the transformation process. Let's look at the transformation process. Excuse me. Right. So, the transformation process is the one that produces the goods that we see, is the one that delivers the services that you use. Right? So, in the transformation process, inputs are taken into a process. And then those inputs, they are converted to come up with an output. So this output, it can be a product that you can go and buy, or it can be a service that you can go and use. Right? So we have 8 inputs that are used in the transformation process, which are called the 8 M's. They are used to produce the goods and deliver the services, or used to come up with output. So we have 2 different types of inputs that we have. The first type of inputs, we have the transformed inputs. Okay, we have the transformed inputs. We are talking of things such as materials, data, raw materials, for example, and data. These ones are changed during operations. You come up with something that is different. For example, if it's a wood is a raw material that is used to produce tables. So the final product is different from the input. So a transformed input is changed. Okay, you come up with something that is different. We're talking of cloth that is used to manufacture or to produce bedding, to produce the clothes. It's a raw material. We're talking of various, we're talking of maybe metals, various metals that are used also to come up with various gadgets. Those are transformed, they are changed during the operation or the process. And then we have transforming inputs. Now we are talking of those items or resources that are used to change inputs into output. But these ones, they do not change. We're talking of machinery. It is just used to change input into output, but the machinery doesn't change. It remains the same. It changes the raw materials that are there, and then it waits for the other raw materials to come. Equipment, the staff, the labor, all these are transforming inputs. They don't change, but the transformed, they change. We come up with something that is different at the end. So note the difference between these two types of inputs that are used in the transformation process. Okay, so this is the transformation process. You can be asked to discuss the what, or describe the transformation process with an aid of the diagram. So this is the diagram that you use. We have our inputs here, which are the 8 M's: money, manpower, materials, methods, management, machines, messages, and markets. These are the inputs. We have transformed, we have transforming inputs here. Okay? From the inputs, they are fed into a process, which is the transformation process now, where we have systems, where we have processes that are used to produce the what? The product or the output. And here, during the transformation, value is added. Remember, we talked about value. Value is added here, right? And when transformation is taking place, there is feedback that is given back to the inputs, whether the inputs were okay, they are producing what is required. And then from the transformation, we come up with the output, which is the finished good or the service that is being provided. And we also have feedback that comes from the outputs. They've been sold now to the customer. The customer is going to give their review on these ones, and then feedback goes back to the transformation process. Other feedback goes back to the inputs. If the quality is not standard quality or the high quality, information is given back as feedback to the inputs, and then there's going to be improvements under materials. Or maybe it was the manpower that was lacking knowledge on how to produce a certain product to the desired quality. Then they have to be trained, okay, to come up with the required, the product with the required quality. Okay, so this is our transformation process. Okay, so let's briefly look at these 8 areas. So we're not talking of inputs, what is put into or what is taken into by a process with the output, the finance that is available to produce goods and services. So it is the operations manager that is going to facilitate the process of getting money, or the process of using the money in the operations department using the budgets. So they are going to set the budgets, the operations managers. And then we have the manpower, which are the human resources. We're talking of the workers that are available to do various tasks, to perform the operations within the operations department or within the organization as a whole. So the operations manager now, how does operations manager get involved under manpower? They are they're going to structure the jobs that are going to be done by the human resources in the operations department. A, B, C, you're going to do A, B, C. Right. And then we have the materials. We're talking of the raw stock, which is going to be used to produce the finished products, right? The raw stock. Metals, we're talking of maybe glass, we're talking of cloth, etc. We're talking of rubber. So now the operations manager under materials is going to work with the department that purchases raw materials to ensure that they buy them raw materials with the required quality, and they are stored, or they're going to be stored in a safe place where quality is not going to be compromised. And then we have the methods, number 4, right? Methods, we are talking of related activities or structures that are going to be used in sequence to produce a product or to deliver a service. I know it's 2 minutes past 8 now. Just give me a few minutes so that we just conclude this unit, our introductory unit. Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Right. So under the methods, so they need to choose and design those methods that are effective, that will ensure that the resources are used efficiently, right? And then from methods, we have management. What are we saying under management? We're talking of the coordination in administration of the activities that are being carried to produce a product, so that the goals of the department are achieved, so that the overall goal of the business is achieved, right? So in operations manager here is involved under management, how they set up structures that will help in planning, organizing of managers and staffing also. Number 6, we have machines. We're talking of under machines, you can say maybe the devices, the equipment that is going to be used to transmit or maybe to change the energy to come up with what is being required. So these machines, they enable the human resources to carry out their activities without difficulties. Okay. And then number 7, we have the messages, right? We have the messages is also an input. The communication between departments, we have various departments or functions, they communicate. The management of employees and managers, they also communicate. Those are the messages that we are talking about. The finance, the production department wants money, and then it's going to communicate with the operations department. Those are the messages. So the operations manager should ensure that messages are communicated effectively between their function, which is the operations function, and other functions within the organization. And then the markets is the last we're talking of all the buyers of a product or service in a given area. That's the market, which is going to be considered by the organization. So as an operations manager, one is to be aware of the markets in which the organization is going to sell its products, so that they produce exactly what the customers in that market require. Because if they produce what is not required by the market, they're not going to buy it. They only buy what they require. We have seen a lot of products failing because maybe an organization has produced what the customers do not require. Okay, so these are the 8 M's, which are the inputs of operations management. Okay, and from there we have the system and processes. We are looking at the transformation process, right? So here, this is where the transformation takes place, where value is going to be added to the inputs to ensure that the output has got the value that is going to benefit the consumer or the customer. From the systems, we have feedback. You also saw feedback here, this feedback, right? So under feedback, we're talking of measurements that are taken to ensure that proper transformation takes place. So feedback, it gives information to the inputs, gives information to the transformation process to ensure that they are doing the right thing. And we have value added at the top here. There is value added, right? We need to know that the value added, we are referring to the increase in value, the additional value that is added to the cost of producing a product. We talked about this. And lastly, in the transformation process, we have the outputs, right? A thing that is produced at the end. It's produced by the workers, it's produced by a machine or by the business organization. And the value of this output should be greater than the inputs that are used to produce that output so that the business can sell it at a profit. If it has got the same value, then the business is not going to get a profit. Should have a profit that is higher than the inputs that are used to produce it. Right. From the transformation process, we have the last section here, which is the differences between goods and services. There was a question in a certain paper which was asking you to differentiate a good and a service. I think it was 5 or 10 marks. I'm not sure now. Between 5 and 10 marks. So you need to know what a good is, what a service is, for you to be able to differentiate them, come up with various points that differentiate the two. Okay, like we say that our operations department or the operations management, we find it in the manufacturing sector as well as in the service sector. Manufacturers, they use operations management to produce a tangible product, whilst in the service sector, operations management is used to deliver a service that you get at the hospital, for example. Now, a good, you can call it a product. We are talking of a thing that is the result of an action or process. For example, we have a microwave. It's a good. We have a laptop that you have, your cell phone. We can talk of bread that you buy from the supermarkets, the shoes that you are wearing. All these are goods. And then a service now is an economic activity that produces an intangible product. So a good, something that is tangible, a service, intangible, like education. We are learning right now. I'm providing a service, but you can't see the service, but it's there. Entertainment. You go for entertainment during the weekend. Go to watch a soccer match. You go to watch a movie. That's entertainment. Entertainment is not tangible. It's a service. Lodging and other government services. Right. So that's a good day. This is a service. Now, this table now differentiates the two. Number one, goods are tangible. You can touch them. You can see them. Your laptop, you can touch it. You can see it. That's a good. A service is intangible. You cannot see a service. You cannot say, this education, the education, it is there. I'm seeing education. No, you can't see it, but it's there. So a service is intangible. Number two, goods are produced by manufacturers and services are produced by service organizations. Number three, it's very easy to store goods, but you cannot store a service. Number 4, a good can be transported, but a service, you cannot transport it. Number 5, there is delay between production and consumption. We don't know where goods are produced. So the moment they are produced is not the time that they are going to be consumed. They might be consumed a week later or a month later. But when it's a service, consumption, production and consumption at the same time. Right now, I'm providing a service to you. You're consuming it from the other side, other end. So a service is production and consumption at the same time. Number 6, a good, it maintains value for a long time. And then a service loses value quickly. Number 7, less likely to be unique. We're not talking of a good, but a service, they are likely to be unique. The way services are provided by various individuals or businesses is different. Okay. We're not saying we don't have different products, they are there, but it's less likely to be unique. Right. And then number 8, there's little or no contact between manufacturer and customer when they are goods. We don't know where the goods are manufactured. We just consume them. We don't know the manufacturer, but the manufacturer is there. The manufacturer will sell to the wholesaler or to the retailer where we go and buy. But for a service, interaction between customer and the provider is very high. The provider there, the customer is there, is interaction. And then number 9, little or no participation of the customer when a good is when it's a good, but a service, the customers, they participate in the service that is being provided. Number 10, centralized away from the customer. That's a good, but the service facility is near the customer. But nowadays, now things have changed. You have a service far away from the customer because of technology. There can be a service provider in Italy or in Finland. You can get a service from someone who is in Finland whilst you are in South Africa, right? It's possible because of the advancements in technology. So this one now is debatable. And then goods, mostly automated the production, and then services, very labor intensive. And then number 12, easy to measure the quality of a product, but for the quality of a service, difficult to measure. We're not saying quality of a service cannot be measured. It can be measured, but it's difficult to measure it. Okay. Quality of a service is usually measured by providing reviews. Okay. And then number 13, a good does not depend on one person, right? But if a service, the saver determines the standard of the quality. Can be one person who can determine the standard of quality of a service that is being provided. But a good is depend on various individuals. And then lastly, it's easier to measure the output of a good, but the output of a service cannot be measured accurately. Measures are there, but they are not accurate, right? So these are some of the differences between goods and services, 14 of them. Okay, do you have anything to add on the differences between goods and services? Maybe you have something that you need to add, which is not here. Anyone to add? Notando? To do Zile? Anything to add? Tandeka? Is there anyone who wants to add differences between goods and services? Cindy? Guys, are you there?
We are here, Innocent.
Is there anything to add on the differences between goods and services? Or it's fine like this? Or maybe there's something that you want to subtract?
For me, it's quite clear. Yeah, no,
Okay.
yeah, it's quite
All
clear.
right. All right. Thank you very much, guys. That was our introduction um, lecture for our operations management in supply chain. So, from next time we meet, that is next week, we'll be asking a lot of questions from you guys. I need the contribution also. So you need to come up with your own examples. You can even read ahead or start ahead the unit or the topic, so that when you come to the lecture, you have something with you. You have questions to ask. You have something to contribute or to debate. Right. So from next week, I'll be asking you a lot of questions and so on as we go through our lecture. Okay, thank you very much, guys. That's all for today. Any questions before I close this? Any questions, contributions, subtractions? If there is nothing, have a very good night. Let's meet next week. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.